Hey, it's Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday. Tom Trento here. Here's a preview of what we have in store for you today. Listen and watch carefully.
حد الزنا بالرجم في هذه المنطقة أن تكون سنة خير لمن بعد. فهذا الحد الآن ماشي ونتيجة الأعمال التي تركها بيدك ما أجبرت عليها، فلذلك عليك أن ترضي بحكم الله سبحانه وتعالى وأن تكون راضي ومستسلم لله سبحانه وتعالى. فالإسلام هو الاستسلام بالطاعة. هل أنت راضي بحكم الله؟ طيب. All
right, as everybody knows, on Fridays, Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday here. The Peanut Gallery is... where's our Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday guy?
Right here.
There we go.
Silence!
Okay.
I kill you!
We try to look at the humorous side of the religion of peace, of Islam, and bring out some of those elements on Friday. Friday's Jummah prayer, as many people know, that's the church day for Muslims. See, the way this worked, Jewish people have their Sabbath Friday night to Saturday. And then in the New Covenant, Christians have their Sabbath day on Sunday, the beginning of the week. Well, when Islam comes along 600 years later, they got to figure out something. They go, let's see. The Jews got Friday and Saturday, basically Saturday. The Christians got Sunday. Let's do it, Muhammad, on Monday. No. How about Wednesday afternoon? No. We must do it before the Jews, you know?
That's right.
So what day is that? Is that
today?
True?
Today. I am here fresh from Jummah prayer.
Hello, Imam Abdullah. How are you?
Most excellent. Good to see you, Tom. Silence! My favorite infidel.
You're one of our favorite Muslims, and as the world knows and our friends know, we don't hate Muslims at all. We have a problem with the ideology of Islam, the political system of Islam, the fact that a mosque is not a church or a synagogue. It's a command and control center to advance jihad globally. We know that.
We know that.
So today is we'd like to just see how you guys are doing, you know?
Most fantastic. We had a lot to talk about today. My people have been all over the news this last week here in your continent. Would we like to say the American front?
Yes, you have, and we're gonna look at some of that. What you saw, folks, at the outset with our Shariah song, you saw Shariah. You saw Shariah in action. This is one of the most disturbing pieces of video I have seen. The guys here have seen in a long time, and we come across some horrible stuff. And
in many ways, I think this is worse than the beheading because of the emotional, Go ahead, Tom.
The beheadings are just atrocious, and the slaughtering as the Islamic State taking innocent people, having them dig their own graves and killing them, just horrendous stuff. But you don't usually hear dialogue between the condemned about to be executed and the condemners and the jurists. What we're going to show you in a little bit is Islam, pure Islam, unplugged. We're going to show you a Islamic court where there's an Islamic jurist, a judge, Islamic expert, judging a woman caught in adultery, and her father is there as the family member, condemning her to a stoning death. And you're going to hear the dialogue in Arabic, but we'll translate it for you. There's subtitles. We'll read it for those on the radio. You're going to hear the dialogue between the young lady and the father and the Islamic State jurist, the judge, and then you're going to see what happens. But this is what the Islamic State. And if you follow our show, folks, it's not ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It's not the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. It's not any of that anymore. They went through a transfiguration, if you will. The Islamic State started in one area, then morphed into a larger area, then selected a caliph, followed Islamic doctrine. They have a caliph. They are a state. Do not anyone refer to them as ISIS or ISIL. They are the Islamic State. Call them that because that's what we're fighting. And get rid of this term self-radicalized. I don't even know what that means.
Lone wolf to it. It's really
Lone wolf.
Self-radicals. How many lone wolves do you need? Jeez, oh man, before it's a pack. Gee.
And how could you have a lone wolf? What is that?
That means...
And a lone wolf who's self-radicalized. There's an effort by the apologists of Islam now in New York City to disassociate Islam from Islamic behavior and terror activity.
That's what CARE has been trying to do for 50 years, practically.
So on this show, Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday, 24 October 2014, 11 minutes after 4 o'clock, your host, Tom Trento, here. Thank all of you for your cards and letters and emails in support of the show. Those of you in the radio audience, WSBR, 7:40 a.m. on the dial, Miami to North Palm Beach. Appreciate being here. Great shows next week. They're always great shows. We love putting them on.
Yes, we do.
We deal with not just the Islamic issues. We deal with issues supporting the state of Israel because they are our #1 national security partner here in America.
Speak for yourself.
The what?
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself. A wise guy. That guy's a wise guy.
What do we let him into?
I don't know. But give me some garlic, Mark. I want to eat some garlic and breathe on him, okay?
Then he has to leave. That's right.
Then he has to leave.
There's something to that.
No, you have this backwards. If you come to the mosque, you cannot enter until the odor from your mouth has vanished, you Italian food-eating infidel.
That's true. The folks may not know that, but
that's true.
There's mosques in South Florida that if somebody like me, an Italiano, Sicilian in particular, eat my normal meal of garlic, sauteed in garlic with a little garlic on the side, and I have a little bit of the remnant of the garlic flavor and odor. And I go to the mosque, they will not let me in until the garlic odor dissipates from my...
Completely
so
vanished.
You brush your teeth. You
and
brush your
feet
stinking teeth.
You don't know anything about garlic. It comes out of your pores for about 3 days. So I think that's what we should do. Just everybody should eat garlic.
No. What you should do is like...
It'll be like how they tried to keep vampires away.
Well, that's where I was going. Is we should put garlic around our necks and walk in.
Just walk down, walk
What
through.
is that? That is a garlic to keep spirits away.
Secret weapon for the Kurds. You guys out there. And next week we have a key, we have Dr. Shariah Abbas coming on the show, on Tuesday's show.
Right.
One of the leaders of the Kurdish movement here in the United States to support the Kurds. Secret weapon. Start wearing garlic around your neck. These Islamic State guys will fall down around you.
That is not
and
true.
The other
Again, that is just etiquette for entering a mosque. It will not save you. When ISIS wants to cut your head off, they will.
I got an idea. Why don't you...
What is this behind me? What is going on?
Oh, that's your brothers. That's your family group photo.
Is it a family photo?
It's a family photo, Tom.
Unbelievable. For you driving in your automobile, you got to go to the United West and watch the show. Right now, the guys are playing with me, your host, Tom Trento. And they are putting pictures behind me that are scary pictures. We have a bunch of Islamic State warriors behind me. Now I'm marching with them down the street. Oh, I'm so frightened. Well, these guys have been very busy. They've been busy over there, been busy over here. Let's see what our note says here. We're going to deal with this stoning situation that's very, very sad. We're going to take a look at New York City, where there was some sort of street violence, street hatchet violence. I believe the progressives, the leftists in New York, are starting to write laws against hatchets now in New York. I'm going to go to Jerusalem, a little terror attack there, young baby, 3 months old, killed just a couple of days ago. A little bit of unrest in Jerusalem, but I think the Israelis will tap that down quite nicely. But for a couple of moments, gentlemen, at 14 minutes after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we got some local stuff going on. We got a big gubernatorial. Where the heck does gubernatorial come from?
From Guberners.
Because they're a bunch of goobers.
He's the governor of our state.
I think it started with Jimmy Carter.
He's the governor.
A governor.
I mean, I always wondered, he's the governor. You know, is there gubernatorial? Governor. I mean, you could take governor and make sort of a adjective out of it. But how'd they get from governor to gubernatorial?
No idea.
I don't know.
No idea.
Somebody out in our audience.
That's
will check
above
that
my
out.
pay grade, Trento.
Tweet me right now at 15 minutes after 4 o'clock. What's my Twitter thing? Tom at the United West or something?
Yeah, Tom at the United West.
I think it is something like that. Let me know what the answer is to where the word gubernatorial came out. But we got 11 days left before we select a governor here in the state of Florida. Governor. We have Governor Rick Scott running for re-election, the Republican. Over against him, we have Charlie Crist, former governor, former attorney general. Okay. And Charlie Crist is a former Republican. Charlie Crist is a former independent. Charlie Crist is a current Democrat. So he's an independo Republicrat. He's an independo Republican.
He doesn't know what he is.
That's what he is. For our audience, you know, our concerns are homeland security and a relationship on foreign policy with Israel. Who do you think is going to do a better job, gentlemen? Just a conversation amongst us.
Well, I could say, based on this picture alone right here, which apparently it's either right before or right after
that picture,
Charlie Crist and Barack Hussein Obama kissed or hugged or both.
It was just before.
I'm going to say that being Charlie Crist is on Barack Hussein Obama's side, at least for the time being.
Yep.
that your national security vote is better spent on Rick Scott.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at it. That's just before he gave,
what we're
gave
showing
him
right
tongue
now
or
to
something.
the
Yeah.
driving audience, we're showing a picture of Charlie Crist and Barack Obama in almost an impassioned hug, and you know. So, all right. Well, how does that translate? You know, Charlie Crist is not running for senator, where there's votes necessary for foreign policy. He's simply the head. He would be the head of a state. How does that relate to the security of, say, foreign policy Israel?
Well, it's very simple. I'm not a huge fan of Rick Scott. You know, I'm the first person to admit that. But I'm really not a fan of Charlie Crist for this reason. 2016 is when 2016 comes floating down here, and you have this man, you know, Charlie Crist as our governor. It would be a nightmare because we have to win Florida 2016 for whoever's president, because we know the Democrats are going to float up somebody like Hillary or some Hillary, you know,
leftist progressive,
whatever.
You know, love your enemy, and the world will be a better place.
Right, and so whoever that is, we can't have that governor coming out and endorsing and backing the Democrat candidate because 2016 is Florida with
life
20,
or death, man.
Yeah, well,
29 votes.
As important as 2016 is, obviously, whoever sits in that mansion up in Tallahassee has a lot of input on the way some districts are drawn. It's definitely a benefit to whoever's running for president to have the governor be from that party. But also, you can't say just because you're the governor, there's no national security involved, because we have so much border in the state of Florida, and you do still control the National Guard. With everything going on, if Charlie Crist sympathies lie anywhere close to Obama, who is a Islamic apologist, you know, that's very dangerous. And so even though, yes, it's just the governor and he doesn't control the nukes, I think there absolutely is a security component to this election.
There really is. And Florida is like California in a sense, but maybe more so because we're in this close to the southern hemisphere over here, within missile range of Venezuela if they get long-range missiles from Iran.
You could swim to Cuba.
You can swim to Cuba. The state of Florida is now the third largest state, about close to 20 million people, 19-something million. We have 13 universities. We have, I think it's 21 military installations in the state. We are a military complex in the state, Air Force bases, all kinds of bases, SOCOM in Tampa, Southcom down in Miami area. We have the second largest border in the country. We have 1,300 miles of border, more than California. That's surprising.
No,
because our border goes like this on both
we're a
sides.
peninsula. We get all the sides.
Right.
The only larger border is that crazy state that's like disconnected, Alaska, because they got so many little fingers all over the place.
Right.
We were a launching pad in 2001 for the attacks against the World Trade Center. We are a haven for jihadis because they love the climate. I mean, this is a central state, so you need a hardcore counterterrorism professional. And though Rick Scott is not that, he's much better than Chris, who had a very serious jihadi as his main counselor, Imam Mohammed Musri, out of Orlando.
Who brought in this guy.
Yep.
Who brought in this guy? It was what I was queuing
Who's that?
up.
Tell the...
George Galloway.
George Galloway. Now...
George, no Jews in my city, Galloway.
Right?
Yep.
Now, understanding that Muhammad Musri was the faith-based advisor to Charlie Crist.
As governor.
As governor. He's the one who brought him in and brought in a terrorist to raise money for Hamas in his mosque. And that same Imam Musri was Charlie Crist.
Charlie Crist's guy.
And Rick Scott, with some cajoling and pushing and prodding, actually dumped Imam Musri off his board. Yeah. So
and at least Scott signed ALAC, even though it was a slightly watered down version of what we were looking for.
He would have signed the other one too.
Right. So, and I don't have faith that Charlie Crist would have signed the
never
ALAC.
Signed it. Never, ever would have signed it.
I'd say I would have to give an endorsement to Scott, not because he's a Republican and not because I think he's great, because Charlie Crist is a danger to the residents of this state.
There it is. You heard it first. That's what was Imam Abdullah think?
I love this Charlie Crist. He's a very good man. Very, very good man. He worked with the people of my community for years.
All right, it's 23 minutes after 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday. Guys, if you could play about 15 seconds of what's coming after our next segment. We're going to show you this Sharia-compliant stoning of this woman and have some thoughts on that on this Freaky Friday Jumpin Jumu'ah. And if we can't get that up right now, that's okay.
It's got it.
We can bring it up.
Since we're going by this script so closely and tightly.
I'm teasing. Take a look at this. That right there is that's the jurist, the big beard. That's the father.
Islam means submission.
That's the father to his left right now. They're talking to the young woman in the foreground. And in a little bit, we're going to show you this whole video. But right now, we got to go to New York. Let's get to New York. And as we go to New York, we want to take a look at the event that occurred yesterday. I'm getting lost here, guys. Was there an attack in Canada yesterday? Or
no, that was 2 days ago.
And there was an attack in Canada the day before that, too.
No, that was 2 days before that.
Okay, so we got a jihadi driving a car, running over a couple of soldiers in Canada.
Yes.
That's like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yes.
Then we have, a couple of days later in Ottawa, the shooting of Nathan Cirillo.
Yes, at the Parliament.
Then the next day, we have an axe-wielding jihadi, as you see right there. Or maybe he's not. I mean, we don't know if this is terrorism or not at this point. Right. We don't know if it's terrorism or not. Give me a break.
Give me a break. Thanks for the $5, by the way, Tom.
Yeah, I know. That was on the Ottawa one. We had a bet, Mark and I. He said, no, it's going to be a Muslim involved. And I said, no way, Mark, come on. Not in Canada. I lost $5 on that. What's the deal? Who knows the situation with the New York situation?
I am pretty familiar with it.
Well, just give us a quick overview.
32-year-old recent Muslim convert or revert was hiding in downtown Manhattan. A freelance photographer saw 4 NYPDs, wanted to get a picture of them. According to all sources, this photographer had nothing to do with setting up the cops. And out of nowhere, this 32-year-old recent revert to Islam, came out and hacked to the cops, one in the arm
That's him
and
right there?
one in the back of the head. That officer is in critical condition as we are recording this right now.
But he's just a lone wolf, crazy person.
Self-radicalized.
Self-radicalized, lone wolf. And
Leave that picture up right there with that hatchet. For the folks driving at 25 minutes after 4, we have a picture
Do you
of...
think he's want to chop off some heads?
What's his name? Zane Thompson, is it?
Zale Thompson.
Zale, Z-A-L-E Thompson. A black Muslim, I believe, because we checked out his website. If you got the header to... Not his website, his Facebook page. If you can put the header up to that. He has the verse on his header on his Facebook page that curses Jews and Christians, and he has a Middle Ages warrior, Islamic warrior, as his Facebook picture. Yet Commissioner William Bratton of the New York Police Department yesterday at a press conference said, well, you know, we don't know if this is terrorism. We can't rule it in and we can't rule it out. Here's the mistake, folks. When you got a guy wielding an axe with a Facebook page like that, with all this Islamic jihad information on it, when he goes for the guy's head, is obviously trying to chop the guy's head off, you know, the beheading. When you have the Islamic State on September 21st putting a worldwide call out for Islamic State supporters to use whatever means necessary, and they state, use an automobile, use whatever you have, to attack civilians and military of infidel nations that are attacking the Islamic State, you are justified in killing the infidel. Now, you got to understand this, folks. These Muslims who are following the Islamic State is following pure Islam. This is not improper Islam or hijacked Islam. This is Mohammedism, Islam. These Muslims that are following it, they see now the Islamic State established. Think from the enemy's point of view. This is what the New York City Police Department is not doing. They see a caliph, Caliph Ibrahim. They see a demand, a challenge, an order go out. They are simply acting within the confines of their military jihadist structure. They're listening in their mosques to the sermons on Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday of the infidel and the need to follow Muhammad. And they're just acting out a worldview, a geopolitical philosophy, and everybody's going, what the heck is going on in the world? What is happening? Oh, why is this happening? Oh, what's the president has to fix it?
It's a lone wolf, lone wolf.
Oh, it's a radicalized lone wolf who's hijacked Islam. Hey, folks, get used to this. This is the new normal. You can call us Islamophobes, racists, call us whatever you want. We are prophetic in warning Americans about the serious and lethal dangers lurking around in this country. There's cells all over the place of Islamic jihadis. Oh, Lord.
It's not like we haven't been saying this 5 million times for the last 5 years. 10 years. You know, this is what's really amazing about this, Tom. Truly amazing.
Watch this.
Everything that we have said has been coming true for the last 5, 10 years. Everything. I mean, we're not even partially wrong. We've been dead on, and now we're telling you what's coming in the future because we have our magic crystal ball because we have some soothsaying, connection with some spirit.
It's because you're Islamophobes.
How do we make money out of doing this? That's what we haven't figured out yet. We can figure out where the heck the world is going, but we can't figure out how to make money doing this.
I know, but we don't have a crystal ball, do we, Tom? We just read what they say and what? Believe them.
We follow the facts. That's what we do here, folks. We follow the facts. When you got a piece of information that's factual, that there is a caliph established, that's a factual piece of information. You can dispute whether he's a legitimate caliph or not, but the thousands and tens of thousands and millions of warriors under his control, thousands joining each day, millions of dollars in revenue.
Billions.
And the state control billions. These are facts. You could say, oh, well, he's not a real caliph. Oh, that's wonderful. Adolf Hitler wasn't a real legitimate Western leader, but he killed millions and millions and millions of people. Fact, you got a caliph, you got an Islamic State, you got orders, you got people.
And they're
killing.
actually running services.
What are you going to do about it, Bratton? What are you going to do about it, President Obama? Well, you can't find the word Islamic terrorism in your lexicon. Watch this, guys. Robert Spencer, our good friend, sent out a document. This is the last 24 hours. Headlines. New York hatchet jihadi. Which is better, to sit around and do nothing or to jihad Fizballah? You know, saying we got to go do jihad. Another headline, New York hatchet attacker's Facebook page depicts jihadist Quranic verses. Another headline, man attacks cops with hatchet. Police investigating possible ties to the Islamic State, calls for jihad. Another headline, Ottawa shooter had connections to jihadists. ABC News, authorities in Canada are trying to understand what motivated a gunman to kill a soldier in the country's capital. Now, this lasts 24 hours. UK, over 20 investigations into honor-based violence, forced marriage in the Cambridge area alone in 1 year. Canada, another headline, Canada jihad follows Al-Qaeda Islamic State instructions to the letter. Another headline, Robert Spencer and Fox's Cavuto show on Saudi muftis claim that Twitter is evil and the denial of the jihad is real. Another headline, Raymond Ibrahim, loyalty and enmity, parallels between Islam and the mafia. Past 24 hours, that's what's going on around the world. Yeah.
Takbir.
But
We're getting
strength
every day. We get stronger.
But
really
this is not Islam, Tom. Tom, this is not Islam.
Not Islam, I know. Okay. All right, well, here's what's next, folks. At 31 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're on East Coast time in Florida, if you haven't figured that out. Hello to all our folks watching at, 1:30 in the afternoon in California, and listening, because they can listen on iHeartRadio.
Right.
They can listen on the internet on WSBR 740 AM. You can listen there.
That's right.
While we're on live at 4 to 5 o'clock, East Coast. You can catch the live show. You can watch it on theunitedwest.org. We rebroadcast the highlights on Breitbart TV, usually the next day. We'll send that out. And what else?
How about Tea Party Community?
Tea Party Community. Of course, you can watch it live. Go to Tea Party Community. Watch it live there. They have a great website. Plus, you can interact with a wonderful bunch of people as they're having dialogue.
It is Facebook for Islamophobes.
Yes, Facebook for Islamophobes, Tea Party Community. And be sure, we're having inquiries now from around the world. People want to come on this trip to Israel, March 21st to the 4th, there's a couple of dates, to the 31st. 21st to the 31st. We are going, Frank Gaffney, myself, Damon, Mark, a few others from our studio.
Even an inquiry from Australia.
From Australia to a friend out there. I won't say any names. We don't want anybody.
I want to give a shout out to all the Australian brothers. You're doing a great job of jihad in Australia as well.
Yes. But we got some good fighters out in Australia. And yes, folks from other countries are welcome to come. We have people coming from the UK on this trip. As we said, we will do some screening for basic criminals. We're not taking any criminals, If we put you in our database, we're going to tell you, go on another tour, right?
Right.
But then
they can come with me.
They can go with you on that, your tour. Then our information goes to the Jews, the Israelis.
That's right.
Then you got to get by that.
You got to get it by
the Zionist entity.
The Zionist entities, the occupiers. If your name can get by the occupiers, then you're welcome to come.
That's right.
And we have found that the Israelis are pretty good at protecting the homeland, which is why when we go, we have no fear of any problems, and you ought not worry about it. Ronnie Wexler will be with us, the owner, and it is. I'm telling you, walk around, Mark, you and I have done it, walking around Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. It's just very freeing, very safe.
And here's the other side of that, too. Every time before I go, I get nervous. Oh, my God, this is going to happen. 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 I'm just a worry wart. But then when I get there, I'm like, What was I so worried about? I mean, it's you know, it's more in my head than when I get there. Every time I go there, I think the same thing. But when I get there, I'm like, oh, what am I worried about?
Get eased, yeah. No, it's an amazing country, and if you're in my persuasion, an evangelical, a born again Christian, someone who realizes that our belief in Jesus as the Messiah comes out of Jewish friends disagree with this, I understand that, but my belief that we have been grafted into the Jewish world, and we have a graciousness for this. When you go into the Holy Land as a Christian, there's a sense of being home, a very real sense, and particularly if you've studied this stuff. The Mount of Olives, which we're going to talk about in a moment. When you've studied it, and you're standing there, and you go, "Oh my word, this is where all this stuff took place."
Yeah,
or the Sea of Galilee, all these different places.
The Last Supper.
I mean, for a believer, for a believer, it is truly amazing. But even for the Unitarian of you all, it is actually fascinating too. Just historically, it's just so. I mean, you actually get in touch with it, and I think of history, even back to the Roman colony, like going up on Masada, watching how the Romans, just truly amazing once you see what they had to do to go up there and defeat the Jews.
You could be a atheist or a Unitarian or anything, but going up to Masada by the Dead Sea, traveling up there,
right, and
seeing the history behind that is simply amazing.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Well, time for now at 36 minutes after 4 o'clock. Really the feature for today's show. Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday. Very, very sad. But our point is that this thing called the Shariah, the path to the watering hole, is deadly and dangerous. And with all due respect to our friend Zuhdi Jasser, who I know personally, he's a wonderful guy. I believe he's completely mistaken on Islam, and certainly mistaken when he says what we need to do is reform Islam and cut out the penal elements of the Sharia and keep the worship elements, where we can pray as Muslims in a non-lethal fashion and take the law that is the code of justice for a society, for a state, cut that out. God bless Zuhdi and anybody that wants to try that. That's wonderful. It ain't going to happen. Everybody knows that. You'll be ostracized by Muslims.
We will kill them.
Yeah, you can't.
They're apostates. They're not Muslims.
You can't take what Allah has given, the comprehensive Sharia, and just say, pick a little bit here, pick a little bit here. You get the Sharia, as Mohammed Morsi, the former president of Egypt for about 4 days, said, you got
it was
first
a
what?
year, silly man.
First what? First
the Sharia.
Then
the Sharia.
Then
the Sharia.
That's what Mohammed Morsi. Yeah, for about a year he was the president.
Actually, we have
it's first the Sharia, then the Sharia, and finally the Sharia.
We actually have it right here.
Where is he?
He's
here he comes.
Here he is, right there.
Man.
He's in jail now, awaiting.
Yeah, he's actually right there.
Yep. The Sharia, then the Sharia, and finally the Sharia.
Yep.
All right, and we're going to show you. We argue a lot. I'm one of the authors of Sharia, the Threat to America. We argue intellectually, academically, but as I said, this little piece of video right now is extremely emotionally disturbing, because, and we want you to go to theunitedwest.org to watch it without all our commentary and watch it out of the context of this show. Just put it on, watch it, and listen to the woman and the father and the jurist. Watch the subtitles and watch it a couple of times. And this is the Sharia. This is where the Islamic State is going. This is where CARE wants to go. As much as they say, Nihad Awad and his friends, no, there's nothing incompatible with democracy and the Sharia. Let's take a look at this.
Well, you know what? I want to add to Nihad Awad. There is another local leader, Ahmed Badir, who on the steps of the Capitol in Florida said, the better a Muslim I am, the better a citizen I am. Yeah. And I would argue that the better a Muslim I am, the farther away you get from the U.S. Constitution. And this is it.
Absolutely. Let's see. All right, let's play this video. Let's play it all the way through. It's a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And
Do you want me to do any of the subtitles for the
yeah,
radio?
Yeah, do the Imam Abdullah, or who's doing it?
I will take care of it for you.
Okay.
It's quicker for me to make
Give
interpretation.
that guy a job. Let him do something.
I know.
He just comes here and eats all of our
food, bacon and lettuce and everything. Yeah.
Very funny. Here it starts. Video opens up. The punishment of stoning for adultery.
هذه المنطقة أن تكوني سنة خير.
We hope that this will serve as a lesson for other women.
الحد الآن ماشي هو نتيجة.
This punishment is a result of your own actions.
بيدك ما أجبرك عليها.
Nobody forced you.
فلذلك
Therefore, you should be satisfied with the ruling decreed by Allah and submit to Allah. Islam means submission and obedience to Allah, okay? And you are pleased with the punishment decreed by Allah, good? Now he speaks to the father and says, is there anything that you would like to say? Is there anything that you would like to say to your daughter? No. I won't. He won't forgive her. I am not your father anymore, okay? You are not your father anymore, but you can still forgive her. No. No.
She's asking for forgiveness.
She'll be delivered to Allah anyway. There is God in the heavens.
Forgive me.
You expect to give my mistake? No. No.
But
Forgive her.
You're missing forgive me. She keeps
saying forgive me. She's begging for forgiveness.
She's begging for forgiveness.
She's begging for forgiveness from her father. I mean, it's really just sad on this level.
Go ahead.
She's about to die.
Hopefully God forgives you, but I won't.
الله سبحانه وتعالى أرحم منا ومنه ومن العالمين أجمعين.
Yeah.
Allah willing, you will be forced into the heavens. Please forgive her. My heart won't let me. Please, Father, don't call me Father.
Don't call me Father. He's disassociated her.
I will not forgive her.
Tell her you forgive her. They're begging the father to
Fine, I
forgive
forgive you, okay? That's it. Asked to hold his hand, and he says no.
her. I won't do it.
Dear sister, now that we're on the verge of implementing one of Allah's punishments,
This is the jurist, the Sharia
Right.
jurist, Islamic
what do you
State.
want to say? What advice do you have? Say your last words before you leave this world for the next.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Kill her.
I advise every woman, speak up.
أنصح كل حرمة مستورة.
Guard your chastity as much as she guards her life.
وأنصح كل أب
So why didn't you?
لما يزوج بنته يسأل على البيئة اللي راح يحطها بيها.
She's advising that when their parents marry them off to realize what dangers that they're sending them off into. Apparently she was not happy with the arranged marriage and she had committed adultery with someone else. This is a message to all married Muslim men from a married Muslim woman who was driven to do what she did by the mistakes of some men. Don't leave your women alone beyond the period designated by the Sharia. If you leave your wives alone for a year, 2 years, or even 3 years, what will happen with those women? Satan will toy with them as he pleases. Return to Allah, brothers, and take care of your wives. Forgive me, forgive me. God will forgive you.
And they're burying her, putting her in a hole right now, and they're going to
Go down there and tie her legs.
Yep.
Forgive me, forgive me. Put a blanket on her head.
And they're going to put her in a hole right now.
Sheikh, tie her up.
And they're tying her up in the hole right now.
Say that there is no God but Allah. There is no God but Allah.
Now they're going to take stones.
There is no God but Allah, and I ask forgiveness from Allah. We now begin the implementation of the first stoning punishment for adultery in the rural area east of Hama. This is ISIS doing this.
And there's the
Islamic
stones
State.
being thrown at her head. And she's being...
Okay, that's it.
Now let it run. Let it
Let
run.
it
Let
run.
people see.
Now this is Islamic law. This is what happens to women
They
who
diffuse the picture. So
now they just start, and they get the whole community involved in this stoning. God, this is horrific.
And her own father was allowing this to happen, encouraging this to happen.
Well, because he had to restore his honor in the family. And that's just the stones just keep coming. And it's not, big boulder stones. They're about the size of softballs and smaller. That's just music over track. That's not her screaming. Yeah, she's already dead now.
All right. Oh man. What were you saying, Mark?
I was saying this is Islamic law, and as horrific as it looks, as horrific as it seems, they still believe they honor and cherish their women more than we do in America. And they really truly believe it. Once you try to get into this twisted mind of a head, which I have done, okay, they actually think of women as a prize property, a prize stallion, a prize mare, if you will. And if she's out, running around spoiling the tribe, spoiling the breeding line, then she's worthless. Then she must be killed because now the father has no control over his rogue daughter who will just go out there and sleep with anybody. It's a dishonor to the family, dishonor to the society, and dishonor to everybody who lives. That's the reason the whole clan, the whole tribe must stone her to bring honor back to the community.
Yeah, it's critically important for the audience, and it's 47 minutes after 4 o'clock. Tom Trento on the 24th of October, Jumpin Jumu'ah Freaky Friday, and we're featuring a very disturbing video, but we're illustrating the pure unplugged application of the Shariah by the Islamic State in their area right now. And we want you to look at this because this is not foreign to every single imam and every single Muslim here in the West. This is what they understand. This is what they believe is the perfect application of Allah's law. And if indeed the black flag of the Shahada of the Islamic State flies over the White House, then this will become the law of the land of the United States. Now, how bizarre does that sound? It doesn't sound as bizarre today as it did 2 years ago. That's how quickly things are changing. But it's interesting to note here that there is no separation between Islam, between the church and the state, the mosque and the state. And going back to the Middle Ages, you have the tribe, and this woman violated not only Allah's law, but tribal customs. And the father in this situation was, he had peer review of all these guys around him. He had to maintain the honor of the tribe because she would have destabilized the functioning of the tribe if she start getting involved sexually outside of it, as Mark was explaining. Well, right now, the Islamic State is just a big tribe. They don't view boundaries. They are a big tribe of the Ummah, all Muslims together, and this is the rule for all Muslims. It makes all the sense in the world from the Islamic point of view. We believe fundamentally the Islamic point of view is wrong, flawed, deadly, destructive.
And you talk about a war on women. I mean, how much more violent can you get that? We're spoiled over here in the United States. We have the most liberal laws for women's rights, for women everywhere. Yeah. And you're talking about the contradistinction, the absolute 180, the juxtaposition of two societies. There you have it, America and the Islamic State. There is nothing more 180 opposite towards women values than the Islamic State. And here's something that I found during my research, and we've talked about this.
We're running, I got a bunch of stuff to do.
Real quick. There's 40 million women missing. They're gone in the Middle East area with my demographic study. And I can verify that.
Where are they?
Huh? Where are they?
Over what period of time?
When you look at the balance of the women proportion to men, it is flipped. That we have a proportion of 106 to 105. They're flipped the other way around, where it's completely, the women are just gone. They're not there. And so you run the demographics, you run the numbers. It's a gender side is what I call it. And what I found out in the research, most of them are not just being stoned, they're actually killing themselves, suicide, because they're in such a draconian, such a barbaric system towards women, they're actually killing themselves, and nobody's reporting on it.
I would like to take a look at that, because that is bizarre. Extremely bizarre. That's going to have to be another
No.
subject.
It's a whole show.
Yeah, a whole nother thing. Back to this this stoning situation. When I watched it the other day, it immediately struck me as a Christian. Very similar situation in the Bible, in the New Testament. Now, just by way of context here, you have the Hebrew Bible and the Old Covenant, Christians call that, where there was a particular way in which God worked with people through the Mosaic Law. And then we believe as Christians, Jesus the Messiah came. He was the new covenant, a new way God works through people, through the grace and love of Jesus Christ. He completes the law, and the whole basis was it's impossible to keep 643 laws. It's impossible to keep the Shariah, every single law. And if you want to be with Allah, Allah's perfect, God is perfect, you got to follow the laws perfectly. Nobody can do that, so everybody's separated. So what does God do? Sends his son to be the bridge between God and man, and that's the Christian story, basically. So the New Testament is the story of Jesus' life.
Right.
And in one of the letters, John chapter 8, a woman was caught in adultery. And this is interesting. This is on the Mount of Olives, where we happen to go every time we go to Israel. And I'll just go through it quickly. Jesus was up there teaching on the Mount of Olives. It's a beautiful place to look down, and you see the old city of Jerusalem. And he had spoken to a crowd. The next morning, he was back at the temple. The crowd gathered. He sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of the religious law, the Jewish leaders, the Pharisees, brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd, exactly what you just saw. Now, back in the Old Covenant, the Hebrew Scriptures, stoning was part of the Mosaic Law, and that was because the Jewish state was a theocratic state. Jews today obviously don't hold to stoning because the theocratic state doesn't exist. It's a secular state of Israel. But back then, stoning was the punishment for adultery. And the Pharisees, the teachers, wanted to trick Jesus. They said, hey, we got this woman caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? They were trying to delegitimize Jesus, but our purpose isn't so much to argue that Jesus is the Messiah here. It's to argue the differences between the Christian view of Jesus and the Mohammedan view of Allah. And Jesus simply says to them, now, notwithstanding the fact that they broke the oral law of Moses, you're supposed to have witnesses, you're supposed to have the male there. There's a lot of requirements before you had a legitimate court, unlike the Sharia court we saw there. The Jewish
that didn't look legit to you?
Yeah, no, not quite. The Jewish court was much more sophisticated. But these guys, confronting Jesus, did not follow their own law to have a legitimate court at that point. But the bigger point is the compassion Jesus had for the woman. He says, oh, okay, you want to stone her? She was caught in adultery. So while he's on the ground writing something in the dirt, and scholars debate that. I think I know what it is. But he says to the leaders of the day, he says, all right, let me tell you, and I'm paraphrasing here. Let's do this. Whoever among you, from youngest to oldest, there was an expanse of ages, whoever among you is without sin, you cast the first stone. Now think about that for a second. We got this situation, and if you're watching this show, you just saw almost an exact parallel of what it could have looked like in the first century. And this is in 2014. We just showed you that stoning. And the Sharia jurist is there, the father is there, the others are around, and the woman is there being condemned Same sort of picture. And Jesus says to that crowd, all right, whoever among you, from the youngest to the oldest, is without sin, you pick up the stone and throw it first. And all of them realizing that if they pick up a stone and say they are without sin, that means they are sinless. Nobody's sinless than God. So they couldn't throw any stones. So they got caught in their own trap. And they one by one turn away and walk away, turn around and walk away. And then Jesus turns to the woman who sinned, who violated the Mosaic law. And he says to her, look, they didn't condemn you. I'm not going to condemn you either, but you need to go change and you will be forgiven. And it's a beautiful picture of the grace of Jesus through Christianity, being gracious to a sinner, restoring the sinner to a point of humanity again, and not executing her for a sin, because in one sense, all of us sin. We're all separated from God. All of us deserve to be stoned, and because we're not perfect. And the point we're making today is Sharia law is deadly, destructive, and dangerous.
And has no forgiveness.
And there is no forgiveness component. The forgiveness was you'll be forgiven in heaven, but we can't forgive you here. Though she asked for the Father to forgive her, and he wouldn't do it. I tell you what, to our friends out there caught up in Islam, we have made this offer many times, and we have participated in helping many Muslims who don't want to be locked up and caught up in Islam anymore. Contact us. There's a million ways to help you find a way out of Islam, a way out of honor killing, a way out if you choose to do that. Everybody's free to believe whatever they want, but sadly, if you're a Muslim, you're not free to believe whatever you want, because if you choose to become an atheist, or if you choose to become Jewish, or choose to become Christian, you have violated the Shariah, and you then have to be stoned. It's right there in Reliance of the Traveler, proved by the Fiqh Council, proved by Al-Azhar, and substantiated by Nihad Awad and CARE, their recent press conference where they stood with the Fiqh Council and made proclamations. So in any event, stay away from the Sharia. It's deadly and dangerous. Oh, man.
It is going to be particularly dangerous for you one day, Trento.
And
I'm ready.
And I just want to highlight for viewers once again, this is the Fiqh Council who stood with CARE, who endorsed this book, who endorsed this law, who endorsed and said, this is the way you should do it, and what you end up having.
Let me read that. If the offender is someone with a capacity to remain chaste, then he or she is stoned to death.
This is from Reliance of the Traveler.
And that's what you're having right here happening, exactly as Reliance said, exactly as the Fiqh Council North America said, exactly the same people who stood with CARE saying, no, this is not Islamic State. Yes, it is.
And Reliance of the Traveler is one of those books that is in absolutely every Sunni mosque in the country, usually multiple copies of them. It's basically the Quran and the Hadith going over every situation you could possibly encounter for Muslims living in non-Muslim lands.
Yep. And the big idea today, folks, that we want to leave you with as we're coming to the close of our show here on WSBR 740 AM Radio. Tom Trento, your host. The name of the show, Enemies of the State. Sharia is an enemy, indeed. The big thought we want to leave you with is at least a comparison from my point of view as a Christian, the comparison between Christianity and Islam. Whereas Christianity is not a state. Christianity is simply the belief of faith in Christ as the Messiah, and that your forgiveness resides in Christ on a personal level with God. And this is unrelated to the state. We have to follow the state laws too. But in Islam, when you violate Allah's laws, you violate the state's laws. Because Islam is a state, the Islamic State, then now you have a civil law that has to be applied, and For adultery, it's death, and for apostasy, it's death, because you got to keep this state whole. Whenever you combine the state with a religion, you get a mess. That's what Islam is. We don't hate Muslims. We ask Muslims to consider something else. We thank you for being with us today. We're here to help you. Contact us. Come on the trip to Israel for sure. God bless all of you. Have an absolutely wonderful weekend. Goodbye.